2019, Engage Nova Scotia completed a quality of life survey with about 13,000 Nova Scotians. And this survey is the basis to get a framework to measure and improve the lives of Nova Scotians. So your job in this working lunch is to come up with a call to action for the framework, which is based on this survey. So the team at Engage Nova Scotia is going to lead you. So Danny Graham, the Chief Engagement Officer, and Catherine Hart, Communication and Project Specialist, and Hailey Vidler, Engagement and Evaluation Leads, are your hosts for this segment. Please welcome the team from Engage Nova Scotia.
Thank you, Helena. Hello, everyone. There is a workbook that we've also provided. Catherine, if you just want to speak to where they could find that, it's not necessary for this session. It's really there as a resource, but as we're getting settled here, you may want to pull that up. Yeah, thanks, Hailey. So the workbook is just below our faces. So if you're in the Whova platform and you're looking at the screen right now, just below working lunch engagement session, you'll see the three of us as speakers, and under handouts, it'll say Engage Nova Scotia workbook. So you can find that and download it now or later, whatever you'd prefer. We do have some a writing activity, so having a notebook handy will be helpful for that. So hi, everybody. And as you said, thank you, Helena, for the warm introduction, and to all of you joining us for this session. And thanks also to Leanne Strathy for inviting us to be here today, and to everyone who's been a part of bringing this conference to life. Terry, if you're still on the line, thank you so much. Your live music was amazing and so refreshing. So as you can see, and as I said, my name is Catherine, and I'm on the Engage Nova Scotia team. I'm joined by Chief Engagement Officer, Danny Graham, who is kindly sharing his screen, and Engagement and Evaluation Lead, who you've already met, Hailey Vidler. Engage is a small nonprofit, so just by being with us today, you'll have already met close to half of us. And I have the privilege of introducing the purpose of today's working lunch and laying out some of the logistics. So our purpose. This session is weaving in some of the Nova Scotia Quality of Life survey results concerning older adults that Helena pointed to, and moving you towards a vision for your community. So the first half hour is a bit of a different intention than the last hour. But at every turn, you'll apply your perspectives, experiences, and what's sticking with you from the summit to reflect back and plan ahead. We're looking forward to getting going, but first I have some logistics to highlight, or one of which was to point you to that booklet. So check. And as you know, this is a working lunch, so I do hope that you're just taking a couple of the minutes right now and leading up to this to grab what you're going to be snacking on. You're welcome to have your lunch throughout, of course, and some of you may be eating after, and some of you may find the next half hour the most convenient while Danny presents. And so the overall flow is starting with me here, framing up our time together, followed by, as I mentioned, a presentation by Danny, and then we'll move into those activities led by Hailey, and that will involve using the chat, doing an individual writing activity, and talking with one another in breakout rooms. So during Danny's presentation, I also wanted to let you know that you can make the view of the presentation full screen if you haven't been doing that already, just by clicking view in the top right corner of the session's video, and then full screen. So once we move into the activities, we'll be using the chat box that you've been using during other sessions. So just a reminder, if you do make your video full screen at the start, just reduce it later so you can take part in the activities that require using the chat. And on that note, we'll be monitoring the Q&A tab too. And if we aren't able to answer every question this afternoon, we'll follow up with you afterwards. And so there is that booklet, and there's the beautiful cover graphic on the slides in front of you, and it can accompany this session. And for good measure, I know some people are just joining us, so you can find that workbook below the pictures of us on the Whova agenda page where you're watching this all go down. And so some of you may have it open on your screen or printed out in front of you, but if not, that's a-okay, because as we mentioned, part of its purpose is to be a resource that you can use after today. It includes information about Engage, the Nova Scotia Quality of Life Initiative, and the survey results we're sharing with you. And it also has space to write when we're completing the activities and taking notes today. But when you'll be putting pen to paper, as I said, a notebook or even the writing program Word open up on your screen is really all you need. So since this is going to be an interactive working lunch, we do have that poll that Hailey pointed to. Whova is such a cool platform as we're learning. So the poll is just between the Q&A and the chat tab on the right side of your screen. And we'd like to know, what are you having for lunch? Thanks to those of you who are already filling it out. More than I thought is whatever I found in my fridge, which is what I'll be doing after this. So as you respond, I'm going to sit back and listen into what Danny's sharing as well.
Great. Thanks very much, Catherine. I think that means that it's over to me for probably the next 25 minutes or so, if you don't mind. When are we reporting back on that poll, by the way? Are we doing that right away?
Yeah, I see some answers coming in now, and it's a close race between sandwich and whatever I found in my fridge.
We'll let the race continue. And I'll start on this. Hailey, feel free to report on, I'm sure everyone's waiting with bated breath for the final result. And when you join in about 25 minutes, that will be a good chance for you to sort of leave everyone out of suspense. So thanks everyone for joining this 90 minutes, which is a lot of time for us to be with you. And we really appreciate the trust that you've given to us and the invitation we've received from the organizers to be part of this. We, as was mentioned by Catherine, are a part of a small nonprofit organization, Engage Nova Scotia. We've been around for a little while, and some of you may have received some of our presentations in the past. We're an independent NGO. We're striving for a more vibrant, inclusive, and resilient Nova Scotia. And our main focus right now is on the Nova Scotia Quality of Life Initiative. If I were to describe what we're doing, and sometimes this has been a challenge for us, in a metaphor, it would look something like this. For many years, we have been focused on the economic and demographic progress that we have in Nova Scotia, both very important issues. But the connection between those economic and demographic challenges, population and other things, are, we know now, connected to less visible things, sort of under the soil issues of social, cultural, environmental, demographic, and democratic sort of progress. So big aspirations from our perspective about what we can do to foster a more vibrant, inclusive, and resilient Nova Scotia. And it's become, we think, even that much more important during the pandemic. So it's hard to have a conversation with anyone these days in our homes and with our friends, often at a distance, without really situating it in the context of these historic times. We believe that in the conversations and some of the research that's surfacing as a result of this, the conditions that through all of the pain and difficulty and sorrow that has been experienced in this, that we're also incubating transformative personal, social, and economic conditions. So discussions are surfacing, we believe, and undoubtedly you'd be familiar with them, about what really matters most. Who is being left behind, and In your case, perhaps what does retirement look like? In my case, when I'm approaching retirement, what does work look like? These are big questions that are surfacing not just in families, but amongst policymakers. And we believe that, in fact, this creates a uniqueness for jurisdictions like ours, like Nova Scotia, because here are some data points that emerge from the research that we've been doing. First of all, you might not be surprised to know that in Nova Scotia, in Atlantic Canada and Nova Scotia, life satisfaction is actually higher than the national average. And in fact, Canada, by international standards, has one of the highest reported life satisfaction rates in the world. So at times we, I think, easily can become despondent about the place we live in. And we think that, in fact, there are unseen assets that exist in this region of the country. And if you live in non-urban parts of Nova Scotia, in fact, demonstrably, life satisfaction is higher in non-urban places than it is in urban places. And if you live in HRM, for example, amongst, by our most recent calculations, the largest 14 urban communities in Nova Scotia, in Canada, HRM, the life satisfaction in HRM is amongst the highest. In addition, something else seems to be percolating through the pandemic. People, of course, are working online, and that, we believe, accelerates an advantage for our region and regions of our province that haven't been seen before. And perhaps more particularly to the point of the first part of our conversation today, quality of life or quality of place is surfacing as a global priority and a local priority at the same time. I'll speak to the global elements in a moment. So what I'd like to do is just take you through some rationale for our focus on this notion of quality of life and place, and invite you to think about it in the context of the entire Silver Economy Summit conference and you're coming together, because the exercises that we'll be taking you through in the last hour or so will be directly related to this information, but we also want you to take in the information that you would have heard, and undoubtedly the inspirations that you've gotten from Terry Kelly. In August, after the pandemic started, we asked Nova Scotians 2 questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, we should measure our success by, answer 1, growing the economy, answer 2, improving our quality of life. What you see on the screen in front of you are the answers that correlate with those who answered 7, 8, 9, or 10. And you'll see, obviously, a very marked difference in people's priorities with respect to these 2 issues. Now, we provide this as an answer to amplify the importance that Nova Scotians place on improving our quality of life as a measure of our success. But we also want to make sure that we don't lose the tremendous importance of a healthy economy and the overcoming the challenges that we've had economically, and in particular when it comes to economic issues, the plight that people with fragile economic conditions experience in Nova Scotia all the time. And by improving their economic conditions, their quality of life increases substantially. Nonetheless, this certainly for us has given us a strong license to be in the conversation with Nova Scotians about how can we better reflect in our priorities and resourcing what we want to do and what we value as a society. So 2 years ago, some of you may have seen this, we flooded Nova Scotians, 1 in 5 households with mail requests for people to go online and complete a 230 question survey. The response was overwhelmingly positive, in part because partners like the ones that you'll see in the logo soup that are in front of you participated in spreading the word about the importance of this. You'll see that geographically it's representative, but also sectorally. We've got industry and ecology shoulder to shoulder, academia and business, municipal and provincial leadership, all sort of joining, and of course the community sector quite heavily involved in this work. And it resulted in the largest quality of life data set, the creation of the largest quality of life data set anywhere in North America. So this is a credit to our many partners and the almost 13,000 Nova Scotians who responded to this question. I'll note in this that the responses that we got to this were from a pre-COVID time. When we've gone back through them, we see them still as being quite relevant. You'll also note that we have statistically reliable information in all of the regions, the 10 regions of the province that are denoted on the map that you have in front of you. And we have leaders in those communities who are ready with others to sort of take on the responsibility of converting this from a measurement initiative to a change initiative, which is really important from our perspective. We're going to focus in today's discussion on issues related to older adults. You'll see that with our partners at the Canadian Index of Wellbeing, these concepts are organized across 8 what are called domains, and you'll see them depicted visually here in the screen in front of you. Some of them are the obvious with respect to health and education, but some of them are actually critically important to driving our well-being, like community vitality, leisure, and culture, and how we use our time. So in that regard, another way of depicting this, the breadth and depth of the questions that we were able to ask Nova Scotians in those 8 domains in this slide depicted by the different colors that you'll see, and you'll see various types of questions that are just actually the frosting on the cake of the 230 questions that we have. We can determine the responses of people in each of these regions across many different ways of breaking it down by income and education and, of course, age. So in this, in the presentation that we're going to share with you, we're going to provide you with some insights about some of the things that we've discovered about the experiences of older adults in Nova Scotia. And what I guess I'd point to as well is that when you know better than we do that, well, perhaps I do too, because I'm in the category of people above 50 years old. It's not a homogenous group of people in the answers, whether you're between the ages of 50 and 64, for example, or 65 to 74, or 75 and above. Now, we've asked the questions, first of all, these are overarching questions that give us a feel. All of these 16 questions are related to the 8 domains, and they're sort of our early sensing questions about, should we be paying more attention or less attention to this matter or that matter? So you'll see the variety of these questions. They go to the questions of, people's trust in local leaders, whether or not they experience the environment well, whether they struggle with mental health issues, whether their financials are in order, whether they feel physically healthy, whether they feel that they have a sense of belonging to their community. So a wide spectrum of questions. And I'm sharing this now with you because in this question, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to easily see all of the answers, but I'll give you a feel for those. This is a repeat of those 16 questions. These are all in your workbook, by the way, and the results are available to you in your workbooks. And you'll see a couple of things. First of all, in this slide, you'll see that the blue bar, the darkest blue bar, represents the answers for people who are the average Nova Scotian. The Next, a color below that is represented by people. I just want to make sure that I'm getting my scale right. I'm going to move this across on my screen. So the next scale is for people 65 and above in the next line of blue, second one down. Third one that you'll see in front of you is for people between the ages of 65 and 74. And then the last lightest blue line, maybe it's the lightest blue, is for people between the ages of 50 and 64. So you can interpret these later on. I'm not going to spend time going through all of the individual responses that you'll see in these 16 questions. But one thing obviously stands out, and that is that if you're an older adult in Nova Scotia at almost, well, for every one of those different age groups, your experience in, or your satisfaction in each one of these 16 categories is consistently higher than it is for the average Nova Scotian. And we've disaggregated this down to the regions that you've seen in the map of Nova Scotia, Mi'kma'ki earlier on. And consistently, older Nova Scotians are showing that they are generally more satisfied with life in these 16 domains, or 16 questions that you have in front of you. Something to note as well is that the experience of those 75 and above and 65 to 74, generally speaking, are markedly stronger than the provincial average, than the ones between the ages of 50 and 64. So people's satisfaction rates in each of these categories are closer to the provincial average for people 50 to 64 than those people who are older adults. Some of this may surprise you. It kind of surprised us, frankly, when we first saw it. It says a few things about Nova Scotia, and I think that includes the notion that this is a place where older adults can experience a life here that is generally satisfying. So going back to our earlier data that showed that life satisfaction in Nova Scotia is, in Canada and in Nova Scotia, is relatively high. And for older adults, this is a group that appears to be, in a sense, ready, willing, and able to sort of take on a good life and to experience a good life and to contribute back to society in a variety of ways. So I'll say a few more things about that in terms of what our data has shown us. This question is a question that gets asked nationally and internationally, and we've asked it in this survey. It's actually not on a scale of 1 to 7 as the previous ones were. It's on a scale of 1 to 10. Generally speaking, how satisfied are you with your life? And again, in this, you'll see that all of the older adult categories that I've listed, that we've listed, are above the provincial average. This is a really important sort of seminal question for us. And again, we believe points to an experience for older adults that, generally speaking, is positive. It shows the potential for them to contribute to society. They don't always feel, however, older adults don't always feel like they can contribute to society. So we disaggregated additional information from our research about these particular questions. First one relates to whether or not people feel left out. Again, dark blue bar represents the response for the average Nova Scotian, and then the 3 bars below it represents the different age groups of older adults that we've focused on. And a level more than double the provincial average, you will see that older adults do in fact feel left out. And similarly, in terms of whether they feel like they've experienced discrimination because of their age, again, we have concerning factors that point to the need for these age groups, us, to actually be a more substantial part of our society, and for others to see the ways that we can find pathways into being fully contributing members of society. Because when we take a look at what it is that older adults are doing, it's actually quite remarkable and substantial. many of us would be familiar, and perhaps it came up over the course of the last day and a half, with the notion of the caring economy, sort of an unmonetized portion of our of what happens in our society, where people are contributing to the support of others in a variety of different ways. These two charts show the degree to which older adults, again in those four categories, are contributing both to the care for older adults and also, quite interestingly, in hours spent for caring for children. So that alone really stood out when Catherine, who you were listening to a short while ago, and I were looking at these slides. She was reminded of the many families she knows in Marguerite for whom work would be really challenging, for the people who are in the workforce if they didn't have older adults providing, and you'll see in these slides, anywhere from on average a day a week to 2 days a week of care for children in their community. So these are significant findings from our perspective about the degree to which there is a contribution that's being made already by older adults in Nova Scotia that we need to better understand and support in all the ways that we can support this as through policies and possibilities. Here's the final slide that I'm going to share with you that hopefully you'll find interesting. And it points to the community participation and contribution of older adults. First of all, in terms of who attended a community or neighborhood meeting. Again, generally speaking, older adults are leaning in, stepping up, and active citizens at a level even higher than the provincial average. So really remarkable findings within this, with a very low margin of error, showing that this is a population of Nova Scotians who are contributing quite significantly to the vibrancy of our Nova Scotia. And similarly, when it comes to volunteering, the levels of volunteering are also, they're high in our region of the country, and they're high amongst older adults by age category. So the strength, the assets, the possibilities for these age groups, and again, not a homogenous group. You'll see there are differences, again, amongst those three groups, but really interesting ones that I think are worthwhile for us to focus on, that are giving us entirely new insights into the lived experience of people on a day-to-day basis. Let me just finish my portion of this with one more slide. And it touches on us not being alone, but to a certain extent, frankly, in this focus on quality of life, being on a bit of a leading edge. Just before I joined this conversation, I was invited as a representative from Nova Scotia to participate in a panel presentation to other Canadians about this notion of well-being and quality of life. And it is, we're fortunate that in Nova Scotia, the focus that we're applying to this and seeing the whole person through all age groups, and especially with extra emphasis on people who are from underrepresented communities of people, we are attempting to ensure that as we move forward as a province, fewer people are being left behind. This is the effort that's being applied in New Zealand and Scotland, and in an increasing number of OECD countries. OECD is the Organization for Economic and Cooperation and Development out of Paris. Canada is one of the 150 or so members of that organization, and they're setting sort of the international standards for this. But what's particularly interesting for any of you who've paid attention to the most recent budget that came down from the federal government this spring, it too pointed to this notion of quality of life, especially in the pandemic, just back to the earlier slides that we shared, as being a high priority for us as we sort of settle into, okay, what matters most? How are we as a society going to more effectively advance our way to ensure that this is more inclusive and we're more vibrant and resilient as Nova Scotians. So I don't have my Whova in front of me, Catherine and Hailey. That brings me to the end of one of our sessions, but there was a question earlier that was put into the Q&A from Ina. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, who's kind enough to go onto our website and actually find that the slides that I've just shared with you are not on, that can be brought onto our website, but we have close to 300 slides already with data related to people that disaggregates information relative to age, living arrangement, region of the province, and income. And we're delighted that people are paying attention to this. And the question she was asking was, how are we engaging, or to what extent are leaders engaged in this information in order to affect change and for it to go beyond the measurement exercise? And we're delighted to say that the interest at the provincial and municipal and even the federal level is high. We don't see it just as a responsibility of government. There are lots of other parts of our society where people can sort of take up the results and work together across, again, that public, private, community, and academic sort of sphere, which is the space that we like to facilitate in.
Thanks, Danny. And thanks to everyone for being with us. It's now going over to me, and I'm going to actually switch over to my slide deck. But as we do that, I'm going to get you to pay attention to the Whova and specifically the chat function. And in that, we're going to ask you just to take a few minutes and to sit with what you heard and to put any additional reflections that you have. So is anything standing out or surprising you in what you heard in the information that Danny shared? And how does this relate to some of what you're learning about in the rest of the summit? So with that, head on over to the chat. And if you don't participate in there, maybe just take some final bites of your lunch because you're going to be in breakout groups soon. Now I'll be monitoring the chat. And to answer Cameron, a lot of it is on our website, and we can share that in the chat. It's just engagenovaScotia.ca. So like we said at the beginning, we're here to talk about the Quality of Life Initiative, but we also know that this session was called the Call to Action, and that this was at, day 2 of the Silver Economy Summit, and we know that it's coming to a close soon. And we often say, as Danny did, that the Quality of Life Initiative is not just a measurement exercise, but that it's a change initiative. And the information that Danny shared is really illuminating and really useful. So people are using it in many ways right now, from, report writing. A lot of them see themselves in it. We've got really cool projects going on with the Accessibility Directorate. So while this information and data is so important, the heart of the initiative to move towards action and change is really at moments of connection. And as we connect through stories and experience about our quality of life, and really this is one of those moments. So we can gather with fellow Nova Scotians to talk about what matters most to you and to us. And Engage can provide thoughtful questions and tools to move towards your own visions for a good and bright and vibrant future. And we know that, whether it's a vision for what you're going to do today or tomorrow or for years in the future. As Danny said at the beginning, Engage Nova Scotia's vision for our organization and for this province is a vibrant, inclusive, and resilient Nova Scotia. And we know that this exists now for many people, but we also know that it does not exist for all. So through our sessions, we often ask people to consider, what do each of these words mean to you? You know, vibrant, inclusive, and resilient. And how can you use your skills and talents to move us toward communities where we can all experience a good life? So whether you're an older adult who's interested in making social impact or economic impact as a volunteer, business owner, or retiree, you're really an essential part of this. And you've really shown that by participating in this summit the past few days, and really by being here on this working lunch. So big thank you for that. So moving on, when Danny and Catherine and I sat down to think through the purpose of this session and how we could best use this time and space together as you're starting to wrap up the summit, we were really excited to see that the purpose of the summit is not only to hear from incredible speakers and experiences. I tuned in on that first opening from Olive, and you received helpful information about opportunities and possibilities. But I was excited to see that even in the language of this summit, they said that the purpose or even the vision of the summit was to get you closer to your why and to your how. And we think that that actioning point part is, you know, really important. And that why question is, if not one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves and each other. So with that, that brings us to our activity where we're going to spend, you know, the chunk of our time together here today. And we're going to do a visioning exercise. So actioning, visioning, whatever you want to call it. I really like starting with a vision because visioning exercises are really useful. They encourage us to dream and to think big and imagine that ideal future that we want to work towards. But there's also a really practical component to them, right? You know, these types of activities create an intention. Maybe it's an anchor. Maybe it's a goalpost that you want to work towards. Maybe it's a mantra that you want to wake up in the morning with. But we hope that this visioning activity will be a useful tool for you as we close up the Silver Economy Summit. So with this is the statement that we're going to be working on first individually and then together in groups. And this is so you can reflect and you can synthesize your learning, but then also translate it into something concrete. So as you can see here, as we have up on the screen, and we'll put it in the chat and some other places, the green means that's where you fill in the blanks. So for me, a vibrant community for older adults looks like and it feels like. In this vibrant community, I will contribute so this could be maybe skills or resources or something you've been wanting to work on. And then to move forward toward this vision, I need blank. And I'm just going to take a moment to break down some of the choices behind this statement. You know, we talked about a vibrant, inclusive, and resilient Nova Scotia, but when I looked at the speakers and participated in some of the activities the past few days, this idea of vibrancy really stood out to us. So we're going to focus on that one. And when we say community, we often say, you know, this could be, we call it big C or small c community. Maybe this is your geographic community. Maybe this is a community of identity, or maybe this is a microcosm of that. It's a service group that you work towards. So you get to kind of decide what community means to you, and recognizing that a vibrant economy is an essential part of that. So, for example, I thought I would share my vision statement with you before I send you off to create your own. So for me, Hailey, a vibrant community for older adults looks like intergenerational spaces where we can learn from each other's experiences. And it feels welcoming, it feels caring and fun. In this vibrant community, I will contribute my thoughtfulness and my convening / party planning skills, because those are pretty good skills as well. And to move towards this vision, I need an opening to meet older adults who maybe want to help me plan. So that's what this activity is going to look like. In terms of the logistics, we're actually going to send you off, whether you get a pen and paper now, or maybe you're actually working in that workbook where there's a template. And you're going to have 5 full minutes of personal reflection to answer this, and we'll make sure it's back up on the screen. After that 5 full minutes of personal reflection, we're going to send you out into breakout groups. And I know you're probably quite excited. I know whenever I'm part of summits or conferences, just to chat with each other. Maybe you'll want to talk and reflect on things that you heard, but we're going to ask once you go into those breakout groups that you give everybody in that group a moment to read their statement. After everybody has read their vision statement, it's then open conversation. But in that open conversation, we encourage you to, first of all, share the floor. We know that for some introverts, this might sound like a nightmare, but for some extroverts, you could talk about this forever. So just be aware of the different personalities we have and that you're sharing the floor. And we encourage you to get to that why. Maybe ask each other questions about your vision statements. Or maybe somebody said, I need blank, and you have a good answer for that. 25 minutes might seem like a long time, but we are sure that it will fly by. So with that, I'm going to put that statement back up on the screen, and we're going to ask you to essentially fill in the blanks. Alrighty, enjoy. we do have just about a minute more for those personal reflections. Alrighty, so I'm gonna get Catherine to soon send us into those breakout groups. They're about a size of 6. That's gonna bring us to probably around 1:15 for that 25 minutes. If you have any questions, always feel free to pop out of those breakout groups and we can always sort you back in. I hope you enjoy sharing these vision statements with your fellow summit goers, and that the conversation that comes out of that is fruitful. So enjoy those conversations, everybody, and we'll see you back here soon. And just a reminder to press join on those breakout groups in order to get into them. If you have any troubles, we'll be here in the main room to try and sort you in. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I was just sharing with my group mates that I'm going to be ad-libbing this one, but I think there's an Einstein quote, something along the lines of like the definition of crazy is if you keep trying the same thing, it's not working, you keep doing it anyway. So it wasn't working for a lot of folks, unfortunately, which is a bit of a bummer, but as these things go. Well, usually on normal Zoom, I would give people, show me a, a smile or a nod if you're still with us. I do just want to, for those, I see some faces, that's great. For those who missed that part, we kind of just decided to call it as a team, as sometimes you have to when things aren't working the way you want them to. For those who actually had the opportunity to be in conversation with each other, I hope that you had a wonderful moment of connection and sharing your vision. For those who were unable to, personal reflection is always great too, but I think that's why maybe we can use the Whova platform afterwards to continue this conversation about our own personal visions. And so with that, we were going to get folks to turn their attention to that Whova platform one more time. But if it's not working with folks, oh, we got somebody who was in a breakout group with themselves. Sorry about that, Jacqueline. I hope you had some good reflective thinking. I would hope so. And so I see some folks in the chat. We were hoping that everybody could have an opportunity just to share that first line of their vision. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste it in the chat. Because I can't see faces and maybe thumbs up, mind you, I can see your faces. If you feel comfortable turning your camera on, I would love that. Because I can see them on this side. I know you can't on your side. Wonderful. Okay, I'm getting, that's so nice to see. Hi, Ellen. Hi, some folks I know. So great to see you. So we are going to copy and paste the first of this line in the chat. And if you can, it would be really wonderful to see the answer to that. Just looking over here. Okay, Catherine's in there. So I'm going to go ahead and find that first line that was, for me, a vibrant community for older adults looks like blank and it feels like blank. So I'm copying and paste that now in the chat. And if you could just take a moment to take that, to fill in your blanks and to press enter. I think it will be a really nice opportunity to see what other folks were thinking. And for those that I can see your faces, can you see the Whova chat? Thumbs up. You can't see it, some of you. Okay. Thumbs down. I see a thumbs down. That's okay too. Alrighty. Welcoming. Thanks for those who are in there. Awesome. Can you see each other's faces through the Whova chat at the moment? You can see. Oh, wonderful. That's a nice feeling, isn't it? I'm wondering if I can pivot a bit and see. And if people unmute, would you be able to hear somebody else? Helen.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, voices. Love it. Miss that. That's wonderful.
I got kicked out of Whova.
The chat's up now. The chat's up.
The chat is up. Yeah, I see some people answering here. I have, it's a beacon of light. I have from Elizabeth. It's a place where all of us in all of our diversity are welcomed and engaged, and it feels validating and affirming. Older adults are valued, celebrated for what they bring to the table. Lovely. Catherine, do you want to read off some as well? I would love to. Ed, thank you. Ed, I think this is the second one that you've shared. So I wonder if the conversation changed any of your reflections. But you've noted that a vibrant community for older adults looks like encourages and welcomes participation by older adults and feels natural and comfortable. That's really beautiful.
No, following with conversations with others, that would be Danny and Chris Andrews. It was interesting to hear the different perspectives, and I respect their perspectives, but nope, that's how I feel, and it's at a personal level, as well as just thinking more broadly. That for me would be how I would personally define it.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Ed. We also have accessible, inclusive, with support and opportunities to be physically and socially active. Welcomed with open minds, open hearts, and open arms. Thank you, Celeste. That's really beautiful. Thanks for everyone who's sharing in the chat for this waterfall moment after your conversations or personal reflections, and bringing everything in based on what you've heard throughout the last day and a half related to the conference and all of the wonderful speakers. Intergenerational. Thanks, Jacqueline. And the chat, that remains open. So I think that you can continue to be adding to that, adding to what other people have said, and continuing to read what other people have shared too. And the community on Whova, I've noticed, is really, really active. It's been wonderful to see the conversations that are being had there. So you all already know that the conversations around what would be needed, like what Jacqueline's added here in terms of affordable housing and multi-generational housing and safety, you can continue those conversations in the community part of Hoover. And we hope that also you can continue to use the booklet that's accompanying this session and downloading that from the Hoover platform in order to take some more notes and consider this session as you go forward and keep reflecting on all that you've learned throughout the conference. We do have 15 whole minutes left, and I recognize that some weren't able to access the chat. And so for some of those who still want to share their vision statement, I've got a pretty good look here on the gallery look. So I'm wondering if anybody wants to speak to their vision statement or to share it with the group. If so, just, unmute and maybe start speaking, and we'll hope that not everybody starts going at once. We've got some time. I'd love to use it to hear some voices and see some faces if you're comfortable.
It's all of Bryanton. My vision for a community is an intergenerational community with activities that contribute to improve the quality of life for everyone, not just one segment of the population. I would contribute my own life experience, but I find that when I work intergenerationally, everything becomes so vibrant, and all of a sudden age isn't even an issue. It's whatever the topic you're working towards. So I think we need to stop siloing people and work together as a community.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bryanton. And I love the intergenerational spaces too, so I can pair up with you and give you some of my party planning skills. Does anybody else want to?
That sounds good to me. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll see if he. Does anybody else want to speak?
I want to say I use the Q&A section for the chat. The chat doesn't show, so I'm putting my comments in the Q&A. So I don't know if that got lost or what.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I will definitely look in that, and maybe we can consider maybe bringing all of them together, and we can share that back with you once we go search in the Q&A for your answer, Chris. Thanks.
And I just, Chris, put you on the spot. It's Danny here, and I thought that you were a poet when you shared your answer to the opening line. Do you mind just sharing that with everyone, because it was quite rich?
Okay. I said, for me, a vibrant community for older adults looks like a festival with bells and whistles, and it feels like a celebration on a sunny day at the park.
Wow. I love that. I'm seeing claps. Thanks for sharing that, Chris.
And that's Chris at her best. She loves to do that, don't you, Chris?
That's not my dark side. That's my bright side.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Wendy.
Does anybody else want to share? We still have some time and space. I'm not seeing anybody unmuting. Okay. We'll make sure to continue this on Whova for those who do want to contribute or missed out in those breakout groups. But I also recognize that vision statements can be a deeply personal thing as well. So I know I have statements that I hold close to my heart as something that I can work towards. So maybe yours is like that too. So whether you use it as an anchoring point or some motivation for action after this summit, we hope that that was a helpful exercise for you. With that said, I'm going to pass it over to Danny for some closing.
So let me just say thank you to everyone for, first of all, inviting us to participate in this. Lots of insights. I don't think I said at the beginning that maybe I did. I'm 59 years old, and I feel like Benjamin Button some days, going in reverse order in terms of how ready and youthful I feel. So I can relate to many of the sentiments that were expressed in the breakout group and in preparation for this. When we, the team at Engage Nova Scotia, saw the intentions behind the Silver Economy Summit, it was just like this big thumbs up. Our aspiration, as I said at the outset, is a more vibrant, inclusive, and resilient Nova Scotia. And that's only going to happen if everyone feels like they are part of it. You know this better than I do, but for some reason, as was expressed in our breakout group, there is this sense that once you reach a particular age, it's over, and nothing could be further from the truth, economically, socially, culturally. And at a time when the challenges that we know exist, especially for younger generations of people, feeling a sense of connection and searching for the wisdom and capacity that they need to have, we have this enormous potential in a population of Nova Scotians that could, I deeply believe, dock up with the need that exists in other populations of people. So in all the efforts that you're doing to sort of be a part of a more fulsome part of Nova Scotia society, I wish you wind in your sails. Our small nonprofit, will be here with the efforts that we're doing to sort of amplify the story, as we did in the booklet that you would have received, and I highlighted in the slides that I've shared with you already. We remain connected to Nancy, who you'll hear from shortly, the Deputy Minister, Nancy McClellan, and the Deputy Minister of Seniors, and the Seniors Advisory Council, and other organizations. If I saw Bill Berryman and others with whom we've had discussions join parts of this, our interest in and connection to the questions that you're holding as a group are really a high priority for us. And we want very much to sort of crack open the potential for us to unleash everyone's potential, and inclusion cuts across all age groups. The slides that we shared with you earlier, I think clearly show that this is a place where the potential for older adults to be active in our community exists, and it can be further amplified. This is I've heard it said, don't know whether this data point is accurate, but it seems to me to be going in the right direction. Older adults is the fastest growing demographic for a new economy. And so there's economic, social, cultural strengths and assets that you are bringing already, and you'll continue to bring to Nova Scotia. So thanks for welcoming us into this part of your conference. We look forward to your feedback and participation. Please go to our website at engagenovascotia.ca if you have any questions about the work that we're doing. I want to thank Hailey and Catherine and Leanne for all the efforts that went into the design and efforts associated with this. And we look forward to any feedback that you might have about your experience as well. I think that's it from my perspective. Hailey, anything else that we need to do in order to transition back to the next session?
I'm glad I was able to see all of your faces there at the end. It was a pleasure to spend this time with you, and I hope to connect in the future. And if you want to intergenerationally party plan with me, please email me.
So I just want to say that, to your question, what does ideal intergenerational community look like? Oh my goodness, Chris Andrews, I want to say kudos for what you wrote. The festival with bells and whistles and sunny days at the park. Oh, that was so beautiful. So thank you very much, Engage Nova Scotia, for your wonderful work.